Welcome to another Apollo Papyrus podcast episode. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, my interview guest is the founder of the company Future of Productivity and a former CEO of the remote work firm Virtira. As an author, he co-wrote the nonfiction book The Power of Remote with Virtira executive chairperson Cynthia Watson. His name is Shane Spraggs, and my interview with Shane will follow the teleportation sound. Shane Spraggs, welcome to the Apollo Papyrus podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, thanks. I am a business leader for the last 25 years. I've started a number of companies, and my passion really has been in helping people to be more productive. It's hard to really pinpoint exactly where I got caught on the bug for this, but I was talking to my mom of all people not too long ago, and she was telling me when I was a young boy walking through the grocery store, I would go up to the grocery store shelves and organize them. And so even way back then, I had a sense of keeping things in order and managing the way things were set up. And it just sort of grew through my entire life. I spent some time as a software developer. I really noticed the importance of focus time on software development. I respected the need for refreshing and relaxation, so you can come back and be creative. And just witnessing it through many various studies and personal experiences over my life that there's a right and a wrong way to treat people, and it comes down to my appreciation that we have to look at the people we have on staff as humans and not just resources, and how to manage them properly is important.
You are the CEO of Virtira. Did I pronounce the name of your company correctly?
Yes, and just to be clear, I was the CEO of Virtira. I've stepped away from Virtira in April, and I'm now working with a company called the Future of Productivity. It's my own company I started with a couple of partners.
Okay, what services does Virtira provide to boost productivity and performance of remote teams, and how do these solutions tackle common remote challenges? And tell us more about the new company you founded.
Sure. So Virtira offers project management and operational support for sales teams. What they will do is they'll come in, and a lot of sales teams will hire people to do the sales work, but they also saddle them with all this other extra work to do all the capture tasks, action items, meeting minutes, and we provide people. Virtira provides people who will go in there and allow the salespeople to focus on the strategy, the deal, as opposed to all the administration and operation stuff around it. And what it eventually does is it will allow sales teams to become 30 to 40% more efficient. And those are the right people you want to have more efficient, because they're the ones who are closing deals and making business for your company. Future Productivity is a new venture, very much aligned with what I was just saying. We are interested in helping teams produce a happy workforce so that they can be both productive and profitable. I don't think that the happiness of the teams is mutually exclusive from the profit of the business. In fact, it's directly related to the profit of the business. And we help teams by reviewing with the executive team all the areas they can be more effective, and working through iterative improvements to make them more productive.
You co-authored a book, a nonfiction book titled The Power of Remote. Without spoiling too much of The Power of Remote, what is it about?
Well, it's all there in the title. It was obviously written at the heyday during the heyday of the pandemic, and it was designed to provide access to our many years experience working remotely to the reader of the books, and it really covers three main topics. I find that when the pandemic hit, most people were ready to go remote. A lot of the technology was already there. We just had to use it. A lot of the employees were pretty much prepared to work from home. But there were three categories of people who weren't ready. That was the management team certainly wasn't ready. They were not used to working in a remote setting, and there's lots of techniques that they need to learn to do that better. Furthermore, we tended to not hire good managers, and we tended not to train them well. And so that was also an area we focused on. The other group is HR people. They were not ready to manage the culture of the organization, onboard people, and terminate people. They just weren't ready to continue on their relationship with the organization remotely. And last but not least was the executive team. The executive team really relies on being able to see people in person, strategize with others, and have lots of ad hoc conversations, and not being able to see the people and work with them directly really hinders their ability to lead a business.
Cynthia Watson was the co-author of your book. Feel free to tell us more about Cynthia.
Okay, great. Yeah, Cynthia is she's been a leader in the remote workspace for years. She's been working remotely for as long as that she can remember. She's a business owner and thought leader when it comes to remote and virtual working. Has done a lot of work with large businesses such as Cisco Technologies, and her real specialty is on large distributed teams, getting teams that are cross-functional to be more productive in large enterprise businesses.
What was it like to work with Cynthia on a nonfiction book writing project?
It was good. We did things very systematically. We were both process-minded, I guess you could say, and so we started off with a Miro board. We put together a whole pile of topics we wanted to include in the book, and then we organized them in by sections and by chapters, and then we went and did a bunch of research to make sure that we had some clear third-party information that supported our claims, and it slowly came together with working with the editors at Forbes Books.
What motivated you and Cynthia to write The Power of Remote?
Well, it's come as no surprise to you listeners that it was the pandemic. We had already been working remotely for many years prior to the pandemic, and when the pandemic hit, there was an opportunity for us to share our wisdom with the world. We started working on the book in early 2021. Unfortunately, it launched on February 2023, right as the return to office mandates started hitting. So we took a bit of the wind out of our sails. But what we found was that within the next 6 to 7 months, people started realizing the return to the office wasn't really the solution either. And the lessons and teachings in the book really apply well to any business that has flexible work environments with their staff. So if you have a hybrid environment, there's lots of things you need to be able to do. They're very similar to remote work. Most people, even in the office, are working distributedly or working through tools, even with people down the hall. And so a lot of the teachings of the book cover that as well. Our main goal is just to help businesses navigate this new approach to working, which clearly isn't going away anytime soon.
What were the easiest and most difficult aspects of writing a book for you?
Easiest and difficult. Okay, I think the easiest thing was to come up with the content, the topics we wanted to share. We had lots of ideas, and lots of topics that we wanted to cover, and it didn't take too long to put them all down on paper. The harder thing was to pull together as a cohesive story, and we worked with, as mentioned, an editor with the Forbes Books business, and they helped us make it a little more cohesive. But it takes a long time to read a book, and when you write a book and you make changes, you have to read it over and over and over again. And so it becomes a bit tedious, and it's hard to not miss stuff. And so it's an unexpected side effect of having to write a book you have to read it multiple multiple times in the process.
Is the power of remote self-published, traditionally published, or hybrid published? And what was it like to get a book with two authors published?
Um, it was actually pretty straightforward. We worked with Forbes on the book, and they took us, they handled it through the entire process. One of the challenging things for us was that I'm not sure if you recall at the time, but there was a lot of distribution issues. Most notably, that one tanker that got stuck in the port of or the canal, Suez Canal. Yeah, it really slowed down distribution across the world, and our book took a lot longer to be published than it probably needed to be. We learned after the fact that there's digital publishing that could have been done right up to the very minute for people to request a digital copy of the book, and that's how it's currently served online right now if you go buy it on Amazon. But it was it was good to work with an organization that had experience in the process. It is a long and windy process, especially if you go the route of getting an audiobook made. I didn't have too many problems working with Cynthia. We divided the labor pretty nicely. We shared, as I said, we collaborated on the topics, and it was a good experience.
Reflecting on your extensive experience in this field, how have you observed the evolution of remote work over the years?
Well, obviously, remote work wasn't created by the pandemic. It was around for many years before that. But there was a distinct change when the pandemic hit, in that it was then when most of the tools that we currently use became more popular. Up to that point, if you were working remotely with a business, there was still a lot of telephone involved, and it wasn't as popular to use a tool like Slack or MS Teams. You certainly didn't jump on a video call, and even rarely did you even use video on your calls. And really, the pandemic really changed all that. There's definitely history going back to the early 70s around distributed work, but obviously the pandemic had the real impact on it. And then of course we saw 2.5 years, 3 years later, companies starting to look at back to work options, and all that served to do was, yes, it forced a lot of people back to the office, but it made people more resilient around the desire to work remotely. Many people learned over the course of the pandemic that there was more to life than just working. And so it brought into the conversation about remote work this concept of work-life balance and work-life well-being, that if you're going to spend all your time working at a job, it should be something you're passionate about, something that is accomplishing your personal goals and giving you time to experience life outside the office as well. So today, where remote work is, there's fewer companies working purely remote, but most companies have somebody working remotely, or at least hybrid in them. Even the ones that are full on working from the office. It's uncommon for a business to not at least have a third party contractor, or people working inside the office doing day on, 1 day on, 2 days off. And so every business nowadays has to take some time to really understand the ins and outs of the nuance of remote work. And I could spend a lot of time talking to you about what that is, if you want to go to that direction. But looking forward from a timeline standpoint, I anticipate we're going to see more companies becoming start as remote businesses. It makes no sense to me that a new business would start up and immediately invest $5,000 to $6,000 a month into an office. It's just not good use of your money. And as a startup, you're going to be looking for every way to save on money. And what we'll see is there'll be more businesses who start small. They'll hire people outside of their hometown, probably within their local region first, and then maybe outside into their country, and then hiring people up from all around the world. And it'll just become a situation where there won't be a clear point where they'll say, okay, now's the time to build an office, and here's where we're going to put it. So I firmly believe that the next Microsoft and Google and Amazon are being built right now in people's basements. And in 5 to 10 years' time, we're going to see even more companies working purely remote. We also see right now a real desire for people to find remote work jobs. They're high demand. People are leaving stable in-office work for even less pay so they can work remotely from home and get benefits such as being able to pick their daughter up from school, or help their infirm parent. There's a lot, and just get better work-life balance. So I think the initial blip of the pandemic is over, but now we've opened the doors for future growth for remote work.
One final question. In terms of leadership within remote settings, what strategies do you recommend for maintaining team cohesion and motivation from afar?
Oh, fantastic question. So I break it down into 4 categories. The first is intention. Everything has to be intentional. You just can't leave things to chance anymore. This classic idea of a water cooler where people meet and magic happens just isn't possible remotely. And in reality, you don't really want to leave your innovation to chance anyways. So there is some value in taking some time to think how you're intentionally going to set up every single one of your processes, from how you communicate with your team to how you onboard people and so on and so forth. The next is relatedness, and I won't go into the full details of the background on this, but relatedness is the form of relationship just slightly below the caliber of friendship. Most companies in the office, they pay lip service to social and culture by investing in pinball machines and free lunches and that sort of thing, trying to get people to socialize, where in fact we don't need that level of connection with each other to be successful at work. We need just enough connection to get the job done and to trust each other, and that is just slightly above when you have a small talk with somebody and you get into a bit more of the depth there. The third is transparency. You have to absolutely do your best to be as transparent as possible with everything you do, making sure that people have access to everything from the strategy of the business and the yearly goals, the values, and that they can find information when they need it. The last is communication. How you communicate to people matters, and keeping people informed is such an important aspect of all businesses, but even more so remotely. Making sure that you are reiterating and reinforcing the strategy of the business, the goals you're trying to accomplish, and making sure that for any given task, someone can connect that back to connect it back to the purpose of the business through this project. The task belongs to this project. This project belongs to this quarterly goal. This quarterly goal belongs to this yearly priority. This yearly priority fits into our long-term plan, and this long-term plan accomplishes our mission, which eventually accomplishes our vision and purpose. So it's really important for companies to not pay lip service to the yearly plan, and make sure that everyone feels that the culture is centered around the purpose of the business, not around the purpose of the teams.
Shane, thank you for appearing on the Apollo Papyrus podcast. You were an amazing guest.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Every single one of the interviews here on the Apollo Papyrus podcast are done remotely, so it was amazing to interview a remote work expert. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to find your writing and reading purpose. Bye for now. Copyright 2024, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.